And I'm also inspired by all the physical activity you do and the mindset training that you do, like you just said about the Taekwondo mastery.
We're all put here for a purpose, and I really feel like a good part of my purpose is to show people who they can become. And sometimes that's literally just a 5% adjustment, just turning their head and letting them see something that they didn't see in themselves before. And sometimes it's a complete 180, but really helping them to realize so that they can push to get closer to their full potential. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that's hit their full potential, but to get closer to there, because you feel the best about yourself when you do something you didn't know you could. And that spin-off effect, it's a ripple effect that's pretty untouchable. You know, if you go help a couple people and they go help a couple people, and that starts to really snowball, and it's in a positive frame. I feel really strongly that the world could use a little more positive right now, but that feels right to me. It feels like I'm living my true self where I should be.
So welcome to the Real Estate Influencers Podcast with your host, Alex Montalenti, myself, and Mario Hurley. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Tami Bonnell. She's the co-chair of Exit Realty International. I had the pleasure of watching you speak at the Exit Southeast rally. That was amazing. You inspired the entire room. Everybody got up. Everybody was cheering. And I watched a lot of your videos online. I know Mario did a lot of research on you. We're inspired not only just by who you are and your influence in the industry, but really by what's behind all that. Because I can see somebody who, I don't know, I'm just throwing out there, maybe meditates a lot, but your tone is just so relaxed, so straight, direct, clear, and your messages are powerful. And I'm also inspired by all the physical activity you do and the mindset training that you do, like you just said about the Taekwondo mastery. Like this, there's a certain mastery that you're creating for yourself, and you're leading by example, which is a beautiful thing to see.
Thank you. What a nice thing to say. I believe very strongly in trying to be in the present tense as much as humanly possible. And I really think that that's, I love to fight, don't get me wrong, but martial arts is much more about the mind-body connection and really staying centered, really staying in the present tense. And I think you can accomplish a lot more when you stay in that present tense. When you're thinking about the past, you're struggling with stress because it's unfinished business. And if you're anxious, then you're probably thinking too far in the future, and you start getting carried away with the unknown. And the reality is we've all been in unknown circumstances before, and we're still here, right? So the more you can ground yourself, I think the more you can accomplish, for sure.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, welcome, Tami, again to our podcast. We're super excited. And I'll tell you the main thing for me, why I'm so excited, is because it's very, very, very special when you meet someone, or when you hear about someone that's actually doing something similar to what you're doing. That's like a kindred spirit. Alex and I joined forces about 5 years ago, and it started with just an idea. He hired me and he said, it would be so great if we could have this beautiful team of people. And we didn't just make money, but also we're a contribution to other people. And I'm seeing in the videos that I've found on your website and all over social media, you're always giving something back to people. So I would love for you to share with us, like, what is it about it? Like, why is it that you want to help people? Why do you want to empower others?
Well, I think that we're all put here for a purpose. And I really feel like a good part of my purpose is to show people who they can become. And sometimes that's literally just a 5% adjustment, just turning their head and letting them see something that they didn't see in themselves before, catching them doing something good. And sometimes it's a complete 180, but really helping them to realize so that they can push to get closer to their full potential. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that's hit their full potential, but to get closer to there, because you feel the best about yourself when you do something you didn't know you could. And that spin-off effect, it's a ripple effect that's pretty untouchable. If you go help a couple people and they go help a couple people, and that starts to really snowball, and it's in a positive frame. I feel really strongly that the world could use a little more positive right now, but that feels right to me. It feels like I'm living my true self, where I should be.
And do you have a more affinity toward, let's say, women being successful than men, or both?
No, I want to see everybody succeed. But I do go out and speak a lot. I've probably spoken, even during the pandemic, I've probably spoken to 1,000 Girl Scouts, helping them to become their own CEO, a CEO of their own life. And because I think that catching them really young and letting them see, really, it's everyone, right? But when people get exposed to opportunities and they can see something maybe that they couldn't see before, if they haven't had the exposure to where there are opportunities or where there are possibilities, then they just don't know what's out there, right? There's an awful lot of people that aren't aware of what's out there. I've asked over 1,000 Girl Scouts if they've ever met a female CEO, and not one single person has ever said yes. So, and it's not that I think that every girl wants to grow up and be a CEO either, but I do think that the earlier we can expose people to possibilities, even if I'm a facilitator and I just point other people in front of them to be able to do that, I think it's really important. And I think that we're all connected. I think that's very true. Every single one of us is connected. And if we'd realize that a little more, we'd probably have a lot calmer planet. But
most definitely. Not only have a calmer planet, but we could make more connections with people. Like you said, you point somebody in a certain direction, that makes a big difference. Or you connect them to somebody else, maybe somebody that can do something you don't have the time to do or you can't do. And that's huge. That goes a long way.
I believe strongly in connecting others. A lot of times that might be the right person to bring on a friendship or to bring the best out in each other, or maybe they end up starting a business together. Who knows what those circumstances are? But a lot of times when you meet somebody, you think to yourself, oh man, I know who they should really meet, right? I know who they should really connect with. And I think they'll remember that. It will definitely resonate. And hopefully they do the same in return. You want to surround yourself with people that bring the best out in you and make you want to be better, really help to push you out of your comfort zone. And sometimes just matching those people up really does make a difference. I always suggest to people too to meet with one new leader every single week, right? One more new leader, and it doesn't even have to be in your own industry. But meeting with a leader every single week, you're going to pick something up. It doesn't matter what it is either, right? Some of it will be unbelievably useful to you, and some will be useful to somebody else. It's the reason you had the conversation. You're going to end up being able to help somebody else with that message. I also think for salespeople, it makes it a lot easier and makes them a lot more comfortable selling, because I've broken world records in sales, but I don't sell anything. I don't sell anything. I go out and I add value to people's lives, and I get in front of people and remind myself it's just a conversation. If we find a match and it looks like this is somebody that's going to fit our business model and that this is going to fit and make sense and that we're going to be able to work together going forward, that's terrific. But I don't go out with selling in mind. I go out with literally, I'm going to have a compound interest in your life. Yeah. And I'm going to feed your physical bank. And if I can do that, we'll have enough of a conversation that maybe it will get a little bit closer and we'll be able to figure something out that it does make sense for you to be part of it. But I don't think anybody really wins running around with commission breath, right?
Yeah.
I love that. That's actually part of what we're doing with our team, our sales team, as we go out and we train agents and brokers. And the thing that we always emphasize is that we're not here to just sell you, take your money and then say bye. We're building a long-term relationship with you. We want to be able to be there and start celebrating the successes. And our core thing is, well, you can say it better, Alex. Like, what would you say is like what we really are here to give to our agents?
Well, so I was meeting with Craig yesterday on your team, and he was talking about maximizing human potential, and part of our company is we measure, manage, and maximize. And I was thinking about how we maximize the online potential, right? Like all these agents have amazing stories. They all have unique personalities. And that's one of the things Craig instilled in me. And I really resonated with it, is that Exit's a people company, right? Every person is unique and they have their own human potential, and they have their own personal qualities. And it's like they bring that and they show that And I felt that when I was at the Exit Southeast rally, like everybody was very personable. And I was thinking about it today. I was thinking like it was one of those events where there was like no pretending, even from the agents. Like people were just so real. Right. And I've been to a lot of industry events, and we can all talk about other brands and say sometimes that felt a little fake, but this felt real. And so, I mean, when you talk about maximizing human potential, we talk about maximizing online presence. What we want to do is we want to help these realtors with their technology, because it's not what they focus on. They want to focus on selling more homes, and we want to assist them in that process. And when it comes to the, franchisees and the regionals, we want to help them recruit. We want to make them look good online so that they can attract more agents to their business. So that's kind of, the gist of what we do. I think it's a really good match. Me and Craig have had some amazing conversations. I know he's going to talk to you probably tomorrow about it. But yeah, I feel it, right? Like it's such a good match because what we do is so custom, and you need custom in a world of people, because there is no one size fits all, right? You can't have an automated solution for every single, because they're not numbers, they're people. Right.
Well, and I completely agree with that. The top 7 things that agents are looking for, number 3 is help with technology. And that doesn't mean that they want to become a technology specialist. They want help with it so that they can maximize on their time, right? I've met a lot of people that have become, bloggers that have won awards, and people that have done incredible things with technology. And then when I talk to them, and they're licensed in real estate, and they're doing 1 or 2 transactions. So congratulations, you're a proficient writer, but you're not a real estate professional, right? But people that are serious about being in real estate, most of them need help with technology. We believe in it strong enough that we actually have an engagement leader that actually teaches them strongly with our tools how to engage. But I love that you do things that are unique to the individual. I think that that's so important for them to be able to attract their right tribe, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So on that same subject, I wanted to ask you, Tami, we consider you an early adopter. Like, we consider you're always ahead of the curve. You're always looking to what's next, right? You're always preparing people. And we also consider you somebody who's an influencer. What you say, people want to listen to, they want to follow. So share with us, what are your views currently on technology and real estate?
Well, I think we've seen some people make some mistakes out there recently, right? We've seen some disruptors that I believe, unfortunately, an awful lot of the disruptors came in with very high tech, but very low touch. And so you need to have both. It needs to be high tech and high touch. And so you want to attract people to you, but you can't disrupt skill set and personalization. You can't do it. And so for somebody to come into this business that hasn't been in this business and decide to run a business and do it solely with technology and think that they're going to be able to do everything right is pretty ridiculous, right? So I can't teach you how to swim from a book, right? I've got to get you in the pool, right?
Yeah.
So to understand markets and to understand, that real estate goes through cycles. This was a really crazy cycle with the pandemic that people bought like crazy, but it also taught an awful lot of lessons. And even with people investing, right? Looking at Zillow for a perfect example, right? And backing out of the iBuyer side of the business, because you can't just count on algorithms. You have to really understand this business too. And you can get some great data, you can get some great information, but you need to back that up with the experience and the expertise that you have. And so I'll give you a great example. I think technology needs to be a tool. I think people are going online like crazy. So you want to be able to reach all of those people, but then you really want to come to an expert. I would not put my estate in the hands of Robinhood or Acorns, right? I might blow a couple $100 a shot and just play a game with it and see if I'm any good at it. But I'm not going to put everything that I've worked for my whole life into something that isn't a person that doesn't understand where my dreams are. and where I want to go, and that actually completely understands money, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And I wouldn't put real estate as a general rule. It's the most expensive thing that people buy, right?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it turns out to be their nest egg. It turns out to be what they're going to be backing up with retirement. So you really have to understand it and understand what it is that they're looking for. And I think that skill set and personalization needs to be coupled with the technology. If you don't embrace technology today, you're not going to survive, but that technology can't just stand alone.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
can't just
So
have
here's no, I just have
please.
a great story to complement that. So the biggest the worst financial decision I made in my life was when I was selling my home about 10 years ago. And how I did it, I was up late at night and I was on Zillow and they had the make me an offer thing. Right. And I wasn't even thinking of selling my house at the time. But I was like, throw up a number. Let's see if somebody bites. So I put the number in, and surprisingly, within a week, somebody bit. This guy from New York City. He's like, hey, I want to buy your house out on Long Island. So he contacts me and he's like, I have an agent that I've been working with. So they're going to represent us on the buying side. And I'm like, oh, they contacted me directly. I don't need an agent on the selling side. Right. So I'm like thinking, I know enough about real estate. I'm in tech. I got this. I negotiate a little bit. I scared them off. They fled. They had an actual legit offer from their agent. They fled after that. And when I actually listed with an agent, because I learned my lesson, I was like, I shouldn't have done that by myself. I listed with a professional. Listed with a professional, I ended up selling the house for almost 200K less.
Whoa. Well,
So there you go. Like technology, great, but then you need the professional to talk to each other to make the transaction happen and have actual communication. Because what was missing was communication. Right.
But even understanding, and there's a great example here with through the pandemic, 64% of millennials have buyer's remorse from purchasing over the last 2 years. 33% of baby boomers have buyer's remorse. And it's either financial, that they bought too much house, they spent too much money, they're afraid they spent too much money, they don't have enough emergency reserves, they didn't realize there were going to be things that were going to be costly that they needed to do to the property, or from a personal standpoint, a physical standpoint, they're either too far away from where they work. They didn't really process it through. It was an incredibly emotional decision. And they saw a lot of pretty pictures, and a lot of them waived home inspections. A lot of them waived appraisals. And so that's a pretty scary jump to jump into. But when you have somebody there that's asking you what your real estate dreams are and where you see yourself in the next 1, 3, 5 years, and if you could paint that perfect world for me, that could turn out to be somebody that wants to invest in real estate as well. And that real estate professional could do amazing things with it. People move because of their circumstances. So you really have to understand that person and what's going on with them circumstance wise. And then you really need to be a good consultant. You really need to make sure that you're a good consultant, even if it means they're not going to move right now, right?
Yes.
And you do the right thing, and then you build that right reputation. And as you build that right reputation, people will follow you. They'll always follow.
What I love about what you're saying, Tami, is like I hear it so loud and clear. Like you're all about do the right thing, even if you're not gonna make money right away. Don't take shortcuts. Don't think like a click here and there and a pretty picture is the right answer. Like put in the work, and then it's gonna pay off in the long run. And actually, that's what we're handling currently with the people that we bring on board. All the agents, they all kind of like we're hoping for a shortcut, and it ended up not paying off. So all they come to us with a bunch of unfinished stuff that they thought they could do themselves, or they hired their cousin or their grandchild. And this is perfect examples. Like it never pays off. You have to put in the work, even if you're not going to make the big bucks right off the bat. The big bucks will come in later when you build that reputation.
I agree. And there's also truth in the fact that we all have a few special gifts, right? I believe everyone was born with a few special gifts. And when you're in your lane, you're in your lane. When you own it, you own it. And so helping people to get to that point is a terrific thing. But a lot of them think they can be a jack of all trades. And so they're trying to do their own thing in every single area. I can assure you, I get asked to speak a couple thousand times a year, but not one single person has ever asked me to fix their computer. And there's a reason for that, right? That's not where my talent lies. And it's actually not where my time should be spent. And that's the other part of getting agents to understand that, spend your time on, typically, if we're a productive person, and even productive people, they spend 20% of their time getting 80% of their results. So they need to find what that 20% is, figure out what that 20% is, and hire out everything else, delegate everything else, because this is where your lane of genius is. And when you really do examine that, most people just live by default. And, we talked a little bit about that earlier on living with deliberate intent. The road to hell was paved with good intentions, so you've got to add action to it. And it has to be that right lane that you really want to go, that you really know is suited for you. And you feel it, right? You get a good gut feeling, when you owned the day, and when you phoned it in too. And so just, if I'm not an expert with technology, it doesn't make sense for me to be in that lane when I can hire somebody that can do it a much better job than I can, right? And people finding that special section, and then just helping everybody understand what it is that they want to attract.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So I love that. It's like, find your zone, be in your zone. Because like you said, you feel it, oh, this is it. I'm good at this. I love this. You don't get tired of it. You don't hate the process. You're like, let's go, give me more. So share with us, Tami, what is your zone?
Well, I think, I love helping get the most and the best out of other people, for sure. I absolutely love to do that, and leave a place better than when you showed up, right? Whether that's going and speaking somewhere, going and teaching our regional owners. My focus in the company is everything to do with building. So I sell regions, which is the rights to a province or the rights to a state. Typically, just like you were in the Southeast, they own the rights to Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky, but they started off in one state. And as they succeeded and did better, it was a great opportunity for them to spread. So helping them to get the most and the best out of themselves, and then they in turn will help get the most and the best out of the brokers, and the brokers in turn will help get the best out of the agents. But you have to find the right venue. I started off with Exit as a regional owner. I owned the rights to the New England states. We didn't have one single office in the United States yet. When I joined, and I fell so in love with the company, and I felt so responsible for the people that I sold franchises to, that I really wanted the company to take off. So the following year, I became vice president over the US. The year after that, I became president over the US. 2012, I became CEO. And this past year, I became co-chair, running alongside with the founder of the company. And it's a gift to get to be able to do it, and to get to be able to be in an atmosphere where our entire organization was built on human potential. And so we've always put people first. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, we've always put people first. But here's the funny thing, it's good for business. By putting people first, we've never not posted a profit. Even being the little guys, even running tight on funds through the recession, we still figured a way to make sure that we made a profit, because we have a responsibility to do that. And that's our responsibility as leaders, but we always put our people first. Best example I can give you is during the recession, the worst recession since the Depression, about 2010, I get a phone call from the chief operating officer, and I'm with the founder and chairman, and we're speaking in Fredericton, New Brunswick. And she says, we have 90 days and we're gonna run out of money. 90 days. And the whole room turned black for me. We were in this giant hotel and everything turned black. It was just this overwhelming feeling. And then all of us at the same time said, all right, what's the right thing to do? And we all said at the same time, this company was built on human potential, so we can't sacrifice people. So we're going to outsell and outthink our way out of this recession. And the only people that are going to take a hit and pay are the people in leadership. And we did. And we outthought and outsold our way through the recession. And by doing that, we created trust with our people because we did what we said we were going to do. And that trust was so strong that when we hit the pandemic, last March, I was on the last flight out of Rochester, New York, and no more flying, March 13th, Friday the 13th, perfect, talk about luck of the Irish. And within 48 hours, we put together a stimulus package worth in excess of $50 million for our people. But here's the magic. They had so much trust in us from leading the right way through the recession and saying, we're in this together and we're going to pull each other along and we're going to help each other do this, that every single person, including the person answering the phone, raised their hand and said, how can I help? How can I be part of the solution? All of our trainers, mindset trainers that get paid to train and are specific to exit, they did videos for free. They did training for free. We had them teaching meditation, mindfulness, Eckhart Tolle, helping them to ramp up and teaching them how to excel in business in a touchless environment so that they could really ramp up and hit the ground running when they could get out and get in front of people. And it never would have happened if we hadn't done the right thing during the recession, because we built this level of trust so that they could grow. People grow in an environment of trust. They are never going to grow in an environment where they don't feel safe to take chances.
Yeah. That one hit me for sure. We've been there. Mario and I have been there.
You know what,
team
though?
where it's like 90 days and could be the end of the road. So let's just be really honest with everybody and let's do the right thing and let's make it work. And and people show up and it's an amazing thing.
When you have tough conversations with people and you're honest about it and you are vulnerable, people look at that as a weakness and it's a strength. When you're vulnerable and you're willing to share everything, everybody wants to come in and do their share. When you keep things from them or you try and do any type of controlling of people, there's never going to be a trust factor there. And once you build that trust and you go through those difficult times, you build a bond that can't be broken.
Yeah.
And I love what you said. You actually have mindset coaches. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we have mindset trainers. We actually teach the power of your subconscious mind. We teach them so they understand really how they think so that they can live a much more deliberate life. People will tell you after they come back from broker owner training, our first day of broker owner training is 100% about them. We don't even talk about real estate the first day. And don't get me wrong, by the time they leave, they feel like they've had a mini MBA for running a real estate brokerage and certainly on understanding exit. But when they come that first day, we teach them the affirmation principle. We teach them the power of their subconscious mind so that they understand that input controls output. And they really do understand that a lot of what they've been doing so far up to then has been kind of living by default so that they can make the right choices, that they can create new neural pathways that will help them to excel. And they're blown away. By the end of the first day, you should see like they're almost in shock of just, I had no idea. And by the time Thursday rolls around, everybody's ordering the same meal Thursday night because their brain is full. And nobody even remembers to push the buzzer in the elevator. But Friday, at the very end of Friday, we asked them to share the impact of the week. And almost everyone has something to say about becoming a better person, not just talking about their business, things they're going to do to go home and change their personal life, things they're going to do to make a difference in other people's lives. And it's just an unbelievably rewarding feeling. And, that being said, don't get me wrong. I love to compete and I love the push and that adrenaline rush from having to be pushed out of your comfort zone. And we have to have targets, tactics, and timelines. We're here to get stuff done, but isn't it better to get it done when everybody's on the same team?
Yeah.
Yep.
How long is this mindset time you guys have with your agents?
Well, we do different things all the time. So we actually have a segment called Focus on Good Health. So we teach an awful lot of mindfulness through Focus on Good Health. And some of that is through webinars. Some of it's through live interactive training. And all of our trainers are called mindset trainers because we teach a lot of things, not just the practicals of listing and selling real estate, and introducing people into the company. We actually teach public speaking because he or she who speaks leads so that they can be more comfortable in their own skin, and a tremendous amount on mindset. It's something that needs to happen steadily. You can't just get into this practice and stop. From being experts in what you do, right? You can't stop. You have to continue to grow, or you'll atrophy, and someone else will surpass you for sure.
We love hearing this kind of stuff because it's further confirmation of that what we're doing, we're on the right track. It's like that famous question I always have for myself: am I on the right track here? But
well,
hearing
you
this, it's like
you got to find your people, right? And you got to find your tribe. That's why I said I don't sell anything. I want to attract the right people. We want to attract the right people that are going to be on this mission. If they are only out for themselves, they won't fit here. If they will not fit, and it becomes very obvious. And we don't even have to let them go. The majority of the times they'll let themselves go because they just don't feel comfortable in that environment. But when you attract the right people, it's so much easier to attract than recruit, right? And you want to really bring in that right core foundation so that you're really proud. My dad was a builder and a developer, and I started in real estate really, really early. And one of the best lessons he ever gave me was that your standard is the lowest level you're willing to accept. And every time he said it to me, I would go in and fire people. And it was that whole thing of that this is a reflection of you. So if that person is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then that is still a reflection of your whole entire organization, and you've got to take responsibility for that. But I think attracting the right people, it's just smart, right? You want to be around the people that are going to push you and help you to be better at, hopefully, at every facet of your life, not just what you're doing in business. And when you find that group, you're drawn to them, and you're drawn to wanting to contribute your part, right? You're drawn to wanting to be part of that and contribute, not to just sit on the sidelines. It is so sad to see that there are so many people that don't like what they do for a living.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, you said your dad or your grandpa is the one that told you about your lowest standard?
My father. Yeah.
Your dad. And then when he said that to you, you said, okay, I'm not going to tolerate such standards. So you fired people. And so let me ask you, what would you say are like the qualities of an effective, of a successful, of a happy agent?
Well, I think that they need to really genuinely care about people, and they need to be willing to do the work. And that's being willing to do the homework. So you need to understand, and anyone can be successful. That's the beauty of real estate. Anyone can be successful as long as they're willing to do the work. So they need to really understand the whole entire marketplace. And for me to be extraordinarily successful, you need to understand the 30,000 foot view, right? That's where the trends are going to happen. It could be all of North America, so that you can see that there's trends coming in from the sides. Maybe it's Northern California and Florida that things are happening, and it's going to end up hitting the middle of the country at some point in time. So I need to have that view. I need to have the 2,000 foot view, which is maybe my entire state or province. And then I need to have the street level view. I need to understand the area that I'm representing. But I'm going to tell you, more importantly than that, I need to understand the person I'm representing. I need to do as much homework on the person as I do on the product. And then I need to understand myself. What are the things I'm good at? It doesn't matter. You could be not a people person and be much more geared towards technology and be a problem solver for people, right? And you can excel in this business. Tell me what the problems are. I'm going to help you find a solution. I believe that we should be the solution for whoever's in front of us, right? We should be the solution for that person that's buying or selling. People move because of their circumstances. Maybe they're making more money, maybe they're making less. They're getting married, they're getting divorced, they're becoming empty nesters, they're having kids, they're relocating, they just lost their job. It doesn't matter what those circumstances are. I need to be empathetic with whatever the circumstances are that you're facing, but understanding where my strengths are so that I can share with you why I can do this and how I can do this. So many people think it's only the people with unbelievably outgoing personality. And yeah, do they attract people? Sure. But if they don't have the substance to back it up, they're not going to be able to go any further. They might be great at networking and great at drawing people in, but now they need to take it seriously, and they need to do the work and focus on the skill set, and they need to focus on the person that's in front of them. What's really important to them. So it doesn't matter what your personality profile is. You've got to be willing to do the work. You've got to be willing to do the homework. I always recommend that people do an action plan every month, book off 4 hours to work on your life, not in it, but not just your business, your whole life. So I look ahead for the next 6 weeks. What do I want to have happen? How do I want those people to feel? What do I need to learn in order to be prepared for whatever those opportunities are? Who should I be talking to? Who should I be inviting? Who should I be learning from? What should I be reading? What should I be listening to? All that stuff is planning it in advance. And that, I'll tell you, it's the difference between happiness and fulfillment, because so much ends up being deliberate. So I can do homework on the 30,000 foot view with, it doesn't matter whether I'm looking at realtor.org or Inman or the Wall Street Journal, but finding out any information that's pertinent to what it is that I do. For the 2,000 foot view and the street level view, it's smart to have allies, mortgage company, appraisers, home inspectors, so that you know every facet of what's going to happen in a transaction, and any trends that are happening, and you know them ahead of time. Because that really does make a difference, right? Being aware of all those trends and opportunities, or if there's going to be something that you're going to fall into that could potentially be an issue or be a problem, right?
Yeah.
But you have to add value to their life too, if they're going to add value to yours, or they won't stay allies for you. And sometimes those people change. I always call it a dirty dozen, have a dozen people working on the business, not in it. But right now, especially with today's current environment, one of those people needs to be tied to a municipality or a planning board, because zoning laws are changing like crazy, right? We're seeing so many things happening, whether it's affordable housing or just having enough housing. So I would make sure to connect with them so that I know ahead of time what's going to be built or what's going to change, so that I'm ahead of the curve and I can give people more information than anyone else can, right? Also being connected to movers, because we are seeing people jump out of the nest, right? They're moving further and further out, but a lot of those people are going to be coming back. And we're seeing companies move further out. But if you were ahead of the curve and you knew from talking to a moving person that there was a company coming to, an Amazon fulfillment center coming to where you are, or something that was going to create this many more jobs, you're going to be just that much more ahead. From a personal view, when you get a client, find out everything you possibly can about them. Google them, friend them on Facebook, connect with them on LinkedIn, get to know them as a person, and find out what their dreams are. Truly find out their dreams. But you have to look inside yourself too and find out really what are your gifts and what could you possibly represent really well. And because people should have a lane. Even in real estate, they should have a lane. They're not going to be able to represent everything, right? and really do it expertly well.
Not only does that describe like a really, like if I was pursuing that career, I would be writing notes and I would say, great, let me make my list. Let me start to identify what's the work I got to do. But you pretty much laid it out in a way it makes sense. It's logical. And when I put that in contrast with the agents that we talk to all the time, I can see why, and sometimes they missed opportunities, why they struggled, or why they just don't seem to be able to move forward. Like they're just stuck with something 1, 2, 3 years in some cases. What would you say? Go ahead.
I was going to say, and with the pandemic, this has been like taking candy from a baby, right? I mean, the business got crazy and it got into pure chaos. You needed to learn some negotiating skills because of the multiple offers, but everybody was doing business. But some of those people fell up. And you need to stay marketing, and you need to stay constantly connected to people, regardless of what's going on in the market. Whether it's a really chaotic and busy market like now, you still need to be top of mind, because real estate goes through cycles. And a lot of people thought they were really good and created really poor reputations by just jumping in and seizing this financial opportunity and not really looking at it, that this needs to be a long-term plan. And I need to steadily and consistently do certain things in order to succeed, regardless of what the market is.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Lately, I get hey, is the faucet still on? Like it's not flowing the way it used to flow. What's going?
Yeah.
Is there a clog somewhere?
But you know what? Real estate, it's so funny because we do four and a half to 6.5 million in the share chaos transactions a year. So business is happening all the time. It's just, are you aware of it and who's getting it?
Yep.
And so if you really educate yourself and you stay ahead of the curve, you'll always do business. You could drop me off by helicopter. I live in New England. You could drop me off by helicopter tomorrow into the middle of Ohio, and I would know that market before the week was out, because that's your job. But
Yeah.
that's the problem, is we get order takers every time the business is as crazy as it is. We have more people in real estate, 1,500,000 realtors. It's crazy. But not all of them do a good job. And so you really have to, in order to stand out, if you really pay attention and you do the work and you do the homework, you'll excel in this business and you'll have an amazing quality of life. But if you're not willing to do the work and you're just going to do it while it's easy, it's going to be a very sporadic picture for you, and you definitely won't have anything that's sustainable.
Yeah, and I think now, because of the pandemic, because now with the technology growing so quickly, so many of the social media platforms now are like core venues for agents to get leads from and build
Right.
serious connections from. Now more than ever, you really have to think long term, because you not only are you successful now, perhaps, but also you're building something for the future. Because with technology, now you're going to become this presence. People go and they Google you, and all of a sudden there's YouTube, blogs, websites, reviews. It's no longer just, oh, let me call and find out. My sister told me to talk to you.
Well,
It's gone.
right. People are looking you up, and it doesn't matter what their age range is. It's certainly much more prevalent in millennials than it is in anybody else, but people are looking you up because they can. And so they see you before they physically see you. And so whatever your presence is, even on social media, you better make sure that it's a reflection of who you really are.
Can we use that so we can sell more of our stuff? Because
Feel
that's
free.
That's right.
Let me ask you, and I know a lot of people probably maybe not, you're not a big fan of that, like predicting the future, right? The market for the next 1 to 3 years. But would you be able to share, like, what do you see are the trends currently? What insight would you say you have for the future, like 2022, 2023?
Well, there's going to be a couple of things that are happening that are going to be surprising to people, I think. We will have foreclosures, but it's not going to be like 2008 to 2010. People have more equity in their properties now. So it's not going to be like that it's a disaster and we're going to have people, and there's actually been some more preparation this time. So where people last time, during the worst recession since the Depression, there were people that actually abandoned their home and bought a home in another state, and nobody was aware of it. But now they've got protection. Mortgage companies and banks have protection in that, so we won't see things like that happen. We have people with more equity, so we won't see that, but we are going to see some foreclosures. We're also going to see 72 to 90% of investors are mom and pop shops, and most of them are older. So most of them are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And on average, they own 8 to 15 properties. They were counting on that income to beef up their Social Security so that they could have that steady, consistent income and have this great quality of life, even in semi-retirement. But now they've had no rents being paid for how long in a lot of those properties, right? So I think that'll open up some windows for some great investors. It'll also open up some windows for a lot of first-time home buyers that don't mind doing a little bit of work, because now they're going to have something that might be a little more affordable. So we're definitely going to see that in our lifetime. And I believe that we're actually going to start to see some of it in 2022 and 2023. We're going to see climate change foreclosures. And the reason that we're going to see it is because insurers are not insuring. We have some properties right now in California. There are properties that insurers are refusing to insure because they've already been through more than one fire. And so as that changes, they're not going to want to take those kind of risks. But guess what? You can't keep a mortgage without insurance. You're required to have homeowners insurance, so that if they can't cover it, you can't hang on to that mortgage anymore either. And there's going to be people that aren't in the position to pay off that mortgage. We're starting to see floodplains in showing where all the flood zones are, because we're having so many more storms, right? And so we'll end up seeing areas like that that won't be insurable either. You know, I think people think all the time it's that you know, you're a doomsday sayer, and it's going to be that you know, California is going to disappear, and we're going to, now Nevada's going to be waterfront, right? But it's not something that's quite as severe as that. But the severe storms and the severity of having fires and having earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes, and having it be so much stronger than it is going to have an impact on some properties that won't be insurable, and some people that won't be able to afford to stay there, that it won't be sustainable for them. But we're drawn to the beauty of being near the ocean, and we're drawn to, you know, so people will still keep trying to go back. We'll see a lot of unique, affordable housing opportunities, everything from shipping containers being made into properties. It won't be just all tiny homes, but we'll see shipping containers made into properties. We'll see people being much more creative. Green-wise, I'm seeing a lot of projects that literally, the second you go up to the border of the project and has companies as well as homes in it, that there's zero emissions once you cross over that line. Your car's parked outside of it and you're going in, and obviously we're going to see a lot more electric cars. So we're going to see a lot more green things. We're going to see a huge amount of zoning changes, which is why I talk about municipalities and planning boards. We're going to see a lot of zoning changes. It's not going to be just shopping malls turned into Amazon fulfillment centers. We're going to see so much mixed use in cities now that there's going to be an industrial building that's going to also be residential, because there's going to be people that are going to be able to satellite from home, right? So they're going to change a lot of the ways that the properties work. I think we'll see shopping malls turned into condo projects, 55 and older, even young millennials that all want to work together, that they'll have a shared hub in the middle to be able to work, and they'll be bartering with each other and still having an opportunity to have a space that they can live in. We're going to see a tremendous amount of creativity because of the fact that we just had so much standstill, right?
Yes.
And you usually get creative when you have some blank spaces. That's why I believe so strongly in meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our team members in our meeting today said he does his meditation for 1 hour. And he's the one that said, one of the things that is important to me, he said, is to change my perspectives. You know, like evolve, realize maybe there's another perspective that's better than what I used to believe before. So that's amazing. Thank you so much. You know, the agents and brokers that watch this, you know, I'm sure they're going to be writing notes and getting ready for this. Maybe they're seeing some of the hints, clues for what's coming up. What do you think needs to happen though in the real estate industry to be able to keep up or actually be ahead of all these upcoming changes?
Well, I think that people that are in real estate need to pay attention to just what I said, you know, that 30,000. I spend time with economists, along with spending time with people that are in leadership in this industry, so that you can have a perspective. It can't just be your perspective, right?
Yeah.
You have to have the view, and it has to be a diverse view in order to be able to really see the big picture. But when you've been in it for a while, you can start to see patterns, right? And so you'll be able to stay ahead of that. I highly recommend that people meet with one new leader a week. One new leader a week will be life-changing for what it is that you can do. But my perfect world, we would set a standard, and there would be higher requirements for people being in this business.
Yeah.
You know, imagine, you know, that less than at least a third of the realtors that are in the country, part of the National Association, only did a couple transactions or none last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Even during this time frame. So if you go into an emergency room and you need to get an IV, and the nurse says, I've only done one before, how do you feel?
No,
because I think I'm stabbing myself, pretty sure.
Yeah.
And so I think I would love to see it become more uniform across all the states as far as what the education requirements are. And I would love to see that there was some sort of a standard that you had to keep up with a certain number of certainly education, but also in making it more consistent, but also the requirement of doing some business, because it is ever changing and you really do want to stay ahead of that. I think that you need to marry technology with skill set, but you need to use that technology as a tool. You need to use it so that you can engage with more people and connect much better on a regular basis. And those that really do and pay attention to that will really succeed. You know, looking at what you guys do, if you cannot be consistent yourself as an agent or as a broker, you need to make sure that someone else can be. And it's better for you to do one thing. If I was going to participate in one thing, it's better for me to do one thing consistently than to just be all over the board and have it be sporadic and not have it catch any tread.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah,
really determine what your skill set is.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard you share is like a lot of opportunities for people based on what's coming down the line. Each one of those could be a lane.
It's incredible.
Right? Like if somebody would take that on, that's a lane for you right there. A future opportunity that you can learn and become your skill set. I think that's huge for people.
Well, and you know, but back that up for a second, because it's really so important before you even get started on that you know what you want. And knowing what you want can change everything. You know, we have a couple agents in Texas, and all of these women are really good at real estate, but they wanted to be really good parents. And so there's a handful of them, they call them the Wolf Pack, and they work together as a team. They all make more than $100,000 a year apiece, but they cover for each other and they make sure that everyone is in the same level of skill set so that their clients are being really well taken care of. They actually have almost 24 hours a day kind of service, but they don't have to miss a recital. They don't have to miss a soccer game. They don't have to miss something that's going on in their child's life because they planned that out in advance, right? They chose that. If you want to be that expert that's going to help somebody, I think when you tie it to something personal, when you tie it to something emotional, you'll be able to stick with it. I call it a GPS, a goal producing system in your brain. But that goal producing system, you can stick with anything when you get passionate about it. Like I can visualize, I can actually see in my entire mind, I can see us when we get to number one. I can see all the happy faces. I can see the offices across the country. I can visualize the entire thing. You have to see something strong enough and really get that picture and be really passionate about what it is. You know, we have a woman that represents almost all single women, widows and divorced women that are raising children, and she provides education for them financially the first Saturday of every month, and they end up becoming her clients because she was in their shoes, right? You can find any type of lane. You can represent the military. You could be the condo king or queen. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters that you be the best at it and that it really fits your lane. And all of us know when we're in that. All of us know when we're in the zone.
Yeah, and I love what you said, the fact that you can already visualize what it's going to look like in the future. Even this morning, we have a group conversation with our team here, and somebody was saying, well, I scheduled this meeting with this big, very influential person. And then they said, let's see how it goes.
Whoa.
I said, what do you mean? Right? You gotta have something already ahead of time. What do you see is going to happen? What's the work you got to put in there? What is the potential? You know, what do you see as possible? If you don't yourself visualize it in advance, then how do you expect things to turn out the way you want them to?
Right.
So crucial.
I take, I visualize whenever you get stuck and you have a real stress time or you're stuck or things aren't going as fast. If you can close your eyes and visualize the outcome of what it is you want to have happen, you can stick with it no matter how you feel. But I take 2 minutes every single morning before I leave, whether it's a hotel room or my home. I take 2 minutes and I close my eyes and I visualize exactly how I want the day to go. How do I want people to feel? What do I want that reaction to be? Do I want this person to sign and buy the rights to that region? What do I want to have happen today? And I picture it completely in my mind. And when I do that, it comes out almost exactly the way I picture it because I've been doing it for so long, right? I do it before I go into the ring for a fight. I picture exactly how I want it to go. And it it definitely works. But then at the end of your workday, close your eyes and visualize what worked today, not what didn't, because there's going to be some good days and some bad days. And if you just go home with that bad day, you're going to catapult into the next day that way. But if I can just ask myself what worked, it might be the right tagline in an email, right? It might be that you just helped somebody and had the right words for somebody at the right time. It might be you got some response from your social media campaign. It doesn't matter what it is, but only picture what worked and write it down so that tomorrow you start in a better place. Tomorrow you start in a better frame of mind, because you're going to start with what's working, not with the things that didn't. And then it makes it a whole lot easier to let go of the other stuff that happened the day prior.
Yeah.
That's
I want to
so
say,
perfect.
Tami, I want to say that I feel very warm and fuzzy because what you share with us, it gave us that nice, perfect dynamic between putting in the work, doing the homework, being prepared, and at the same time, giving yourself the context before you even go get up and go do stuff, that you already envision what's gonna be your results in the future. And then you focus only on the things that work. Yeah, you're gonna have the bad days, which is part of the whole process, but you focus on what work and you keep on expanding on that. And I think, I would love to have you back, join us, perhaps at something bigger where we can share with more people, because we are in that same trend with that same vision. We want more people to have this. And we do see a huge missing. Like there's a lot of people who are living by default, like you said. They're just like, hey, I'm just doing my job. What do you want me to do? And they don't even know how to engage with this conversation.
Well, and I think that it's so important for people to get the exposure so they can see that it doesn't have to be that way. There are a lot of people living by default right now, but it doesn't have to be that way. They can change everything if they just expose themselves to more things. And so the more we can touch somebody and maybe that person says, hey, you need to see this, or you need to experience this. And, that's how it ends up spreading. But I do find a lot more open people than I did when I first started with Exit. People weren't doing as much visualization. People weren't meditating as much. People weren't the mind-body connection. It was almost a little bit too out there for people. And it seems to be becoming an awful lot more mainstream.
Yeah.
It's like it's moving from we are the crazy 1% to like maybe we're the crazy 5%.
And it doesn't take that much of a percent to really have an impact on a community,
No.
And to really start to shift things so that we can focus on how can we, I'm very optimistic about the future. I'm very optimistic about this next generation because they're so creative, and they're almost, as long as they give themselves a break from technology so that they're not super glued to it all the time, so that they can have those creative spaces too. And we certainly, because of being locked down in the pandemic, that's sometimes when the best inventions get created.
There you go. Yeah. Alex, any last words?
Well, I love what you said about focusing on what works, because we did that mindset shift about a year ago with our team. We were doing a structure of like, okay, let's look at what worked, what didn't work, and what structures we're going to put in place. And then we're like, wait, there's so much focus on what doesn't work. Why don't we look at what's actually working here? Because we wouldn't be here if things weren't working. So let's look at keeping that in, and like, let's talk about what's working and let's implement that the next day, and let's come from a different space, like you said. So yeah, and then as far as the future generation, I mean, I have 2 daughters myself. My girlfriend has a daughter, and I was inspired when my girlfriend sent me a video of her daughter. She's an artist, very creative artist, and she does take time away from her technology. And she sits, and my daughter now joins her for 3 hours at least per week, sits and does a beautiful drawing and painting. And now she's doing stuff like Leonardo da Vinci style artwork,
Wow.
and it's just like, she'll sit there completely focused and do it. And then my daughter's doing it too. And I'm like, this is like amazing. Like I never had that kind of attention. So they do have very high attention. It's just, they gotta,
Yeah, I really believe that every generation evolves, and we need to just focus on changing everything for the better. I mean, the country is so polarized, and we've got to do something to shift that tremendously, because it's creating too much negative emotion, and that's not going to help anyone get anywhere. Hate's not a solution.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's not because people naturally are hateful. It's just they haven't been exposed to this. That's what they got this even from the school system. Both of my kids, they learned to hate school because they didn't feel the teachers cared about them. They felt they were just repeating stuff, and the main emphasis was just to pass the test. Whether you learned something or not didn't matter. Just pass the test and only make just enough to pass. Not even become as successful as you can be, but just enough so that we don't have to have any issues with the government. So all of that stuff, like you said, people are not exposed to how much bigger life can be.
You know what? I live a couple miles down the road from an elementary school. I live on the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. I live in a apple orchard, horse farm kind of area. And so about 2 miles up the road, there's an elementary school, and it's in New Hampshire. It's right on the border. And this school had old metal windows and was dirty, like all the windows were dirty, and it was really closed in, and it was a concrete and hot top parking lot, and all around the whole entire building, not one single plant, not one single flower, just looked awful. And the parents rallied together and they built an entire play area with swing sets and all sorts of cool things for the kids to play on. They got rid of the concrete and they planted these beautiful gardens, and then they cleaned all the windows and they cleaned the whole school. And I saw it over like a 4-week period. These people were wearing plastic bags over themselves in the pouring rain to get this project done. Like they got caught up. These parents rallied and said, let's be part of the solution. And I saw a complete shift in how the kids went to school, how the teachers went to school. They all of a sudden, instead of walking in with their shoulders down, they're walking in and they're proud to be in that environment, and they feel like they've all made a contribution. And the kids are proud, and they're like, look, that's where I go to school, instead of ducking their head and walking in. It changed the whole entire environment. We can give everything, we can touch everything like that if we just pay attention and just, small little changes a little bit at a time, and we can really make a huge difference. So I hope we look for more of that, right?
Yes.
And focus on that instead of focus on the opposite. Anyway, it was a pleasure getting to spend time with you guys.
Definitely. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Tami, thank you so much. I think we got so much from this conversation. I really feel you're not just somebody. I love your competitive spirit. Like you said, don't get me wrong. I do like to compete. Okay. Let's not forget about that. I am competitive. I'm not going for number 2. I'm going for number 1. So I respect that. But at the same time, you understand having a holistic view. It's all about creating that whole human being. So thank you so much for that. We can't wait to see you, to have you join us again in the future. And we look forward to perhaps one day you can come in and join our Real Greater family and just share some of your wisdom with us, because they're always asking like what do you guys talk about? Alex and me were the crazy ones. They're like, what are you guys doing? Somebody told us you guys are like a church and I don't believe in God. I don't want to go to your church. And it's, what?
I would love to come. That would be a pleasure. If anybody needs to reach me, probably the easiest way, in case anybody has questions or I didn't take something far enough, my mobile business card is really easy. You text 85377, punch in TAMI, that's my first name, hit send, and my mobile business card will show up, so that if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. Awesome. We definitely will.
Thank you so much.